So I'm going to start my presentation now. And for this presentation, I'm actually sharing my desktop. Uh, and we are going to see today some details of software engineering. Specifically speaking, we are going to see the software engineering requirement analysis model first. Then we are going to see software engineering use cases, activity and swim lane diagrams. And if time permits, then we'll go for software engineering and project management class-based modeling. Now I'm showing here is the three presentations. Those presentations are small. The third one is a little bit large in numbers of slides. Okay, and what I want you to be with me for this entire session enthusiastically, and if any one of you are having any type of questions, queries, when I go with a thing, okay, don't forget to put that in questions and answer, because at the end of every slide, or I can say every presentation, we are going to answer those questions. I mean, so I will try my best to answer those questions. Because I don't think that there is someone in existence who can master the software engineering. It is a ongoing continuous process, and the process which is continuous can't be mastered. You can only learn it, and that learning or mastery is only for that particular time being. As the technology advances or the demands of the markets changes, you need to make many changes in your production and other thing, that is a software development and process development. And so because the software is a product, there is as such no you can say final or you can say last thing. So what I expect you not to turn on your video. Okay, it's unnecessarily mug ups your data. Okay, this is nothing else. So we'll start with the software engineering requirement analysis now. Okay, today's date is 6th of July and time is 11 a.m. Roughly, because 2-3 minutes here or there maybe. I started this session around 10:55 a.m. and we are going to start now the session, the actual session. So this is the objective of today's first part of the session. This I was supposed to cover on Saturday, but because of our online classrooms and other activities, Saturday's lectures are not you can say conducted, or they are cancelled by the department temporarily. So the objectives of today's lecture is to understand the building the requirements model elements model say, and to learn about negotiating the model. Then you have to learn about validating the requirements. So what are the what is the negotiation of the requirement, how to validate requirements, and what is necessary to learn about building the requirements model, that we are going to see today. Okay. So we are going to see this uh, now. Analysis model. This provides a description of the required informational, functional, and behavioral domains for a computer-based system. So when you say analysis model provides such type of thing, uh, I'm saying first what you can say description required. Okay, say that is the analysis model provides a description of the required informational, functional, and behavioral domains. So first go with the informational. What is informational? So generally what happens is, suppose if I want to design and develop something, I need to give a problem statement, or what we can say a first statement or initial statement, which is generally called as the inception, also idea inception what we call. For example, let's say suppose if you want to, I'm taking this example from our home. Okay, let's say suppose you want to eat something really good for the your say on vacation. So what generally you say, to your mother or whoever the best cook in your house, maybe your sister, it may be you yourself, or maybe your father or someone else. You generally can ask them that today you want to eat this and that. Okay, so you are not giving the all details here, but you are first giving the problem statement. Okay, no, that is fine. Then that person got that informational things. But the functional things are different from that. Functional things comes to the mind of the preparator. The whoever going to develop, or you can say who is going to cook, they know that functional thing, that they require to have these utensils, this type of ingredients, these many things, and likewise. And then you have the processing, that is what we call the behavioral, how you are going to implement and everything. So all those things, informational, functional, and behavioral domains for a computer based system, they are provided by requirement analysis, or what we call generally as only analysis model. Now, what is requirement analysis or analysis model in terms of software engineering? Just take an example. Say, suppose you got a simple uh, problem statement from, say, pharmaceutical store owner. A retailer is there just nearby your house, and he said that you are doing BTech in computer engineering from GHRCM Wagholi, Pune, and I know that you are a very sharp student. So why don't you make a software for me which can handle all the inventory of my retail Shopee, as well as create the bills for the retails. It can create the taxation of things, and likewise. This is what we call as a simple statement or a problem statement. This statement is informational. It just give you the information that you require to create a software which is capable of in maintaining the inventory of that medical Shopee, creating the bills for this medical shop. You know what are the bills for the medical shop? There are daily bills that they require to give to the customers. Then there are end of the day bill which the pharmaceutical owner, that retailer, need to put is in his log. Yeah, and then he have end of the month bill that he have to put once again in his log. End of the year bill, and on based on that, what you can say, sale and buying things, you have to maintain an account complete. So you know that your software statement, or you can say informational thing, that is given to you by this pharmacist or pharmaceutical store owner is simply informational problem statement. Now comes to functional. Now you know, okay, you require a database to store the information of all medicines. Okay, the medicines which in a stock, medicines which are sold, medicine which are required to be ordered, medicine which are damaged, medicines which are what we call say expired, and likewise. So you know you require a complete database to store the medicines. Now you require a database to store the information of all the company representatives, what we call as medical representatives or MR, doctors and patient also, as per the new regulations of pharmaceuticals. So you will have a separate database for that. Now this database will have the three thing. One is the administrative rights, which are obviously given to the retailer. Then you are having some power user rights. You may have give these power user rights, the retailer may give this actually to his employees, and likewise, because retailer is having the employees, some few employees. Okay, you also have to have a payment management system embedded into that pharmaceutical store management. Yeah, because you have to pay, and likewise, so everything, attendance, and you get a full pledged thing. So you know that is in functional. Now in informational, some information is it not given. If functional says that this may needed, so you have to once again go and communicate, with the pharmaceutical store owner. Once you communicate with this pharmaceutical store owner, now comes the behavioral. Now what is behavioral? How the customer is actually going to use the system, or how the system is going to respond to the customer. Okay, so what type of data should need to be entered, whether customer need to enter data directly or indirectly. Indirectly means, say suppose you are very good in programming, and the retailer also says that is there is no problem, you can use my CCTVs and all resources for your program, and you say that instead of asking that customer to enter his data, you just have to store the customer's information once, and as soon as that customer approaches you and orders something and gets something, a CCTV camera will observe everything, record those things, and will enter everything without pressing a single key on a keyboard. Okay, so this is what we call the behavioral model. That is how your system is going to accept the input, how your system is going to process the input, and how your system is going to produce the output. That is what we call as a behavioral domains or behavioral model. Or in analysis, when you do this analysis, the first simple informational statement given by that pharmacist retailer will automatically lead to the functional detail, and once you get functional and informational detail clear, you get the behavioral detail. Now these things whatever you are having right now, because these are still in SRS, software requirement specification and analysis phase, you have not coded anything. You simply have created in behavioral model few diagrams. That is, say suppose here you are having a diagram, you can say this is a customer, or you can say this may be the counter boy on that particular retailer. And what this counter boy will do, he will do first behavior, that is he should have to log in into the system. So you have the first thing what we call as a login. Then once he get login, whatever the rights given to this person by the retailer, he will enter the entry in what you can say inventory or entries. Then there may be the next thing, and then there may be the last means he can log out from the system. So you have the LG, you have the LO, and in this LG LO in between you can enter the data into the system, or you can read, delete, or modify, edit data into the system. So this is what we call as a use case. Now this person, the retailer is above this person, but what we call as an inheritance in thing, this retailer is having administrative rights. So retailer can log in into the system, retailer can do all these operations, but retailer can also assign what you can say the access rights. So here you are having the access right assignments by the retailer. It's a behavioral model. And what retailer also have the above what you can say practices. So actually retailer inherits all the things from this. So this is your primary you can say the end user, then account. Whatever this person can do, this can do, but whatever this person can do, this is a super class, this person can't. Okay, so it's actually inheriting. So you got all these things. So this you get the informational, functional, and behavioral model. Now when you get this informational model, you also get the graphical user interface idea. For example, right now we say that a person required to have a medical medicines. So what means a medicine database? You know, the every medicines will have some code, specific code of given by Indian Medical Council. Then you required to have the medicine name, medicine quantity in this number of strips, its manufacturing dates, and its expiry dates. Okay, then you can say ordered quantity. You may have here the sold quantity. Okay, and you can say quantity in store, so that you from this quantity in store you will know that what next order may be. So if you go with these fields, your informational things already give you the designs. So generally what you create such type of you can say rough designs of your forms in analysis model for informational, functional, and behavioral thing. So this is a simple way of this analysis model. Now when we say analysis model, this changes dynamically because every time you go with asking the questions, whenever you go get some information and you try to model that information into a system, you come to know that this might be required, and then you require to re-communicate with the stakeholders. Stakeholders is your customer, stakeholder maybe the financial stakeholder, and based on that you go on. So these things always change dynamically. So when we say this changes dynamically, that means this changes dynamically because of the stakeholders. There are different stakeholders in a company. Okay, so you have to be very careful when it comes to stakeholders. So analysis model is a snapshot of requirements at any given time. What are the different requirements of the snapshot? So Now I'm going to see that there are total only 57 attendees, uh, and we are having a total 135 people here. I know that many of you are not registered because for last last actually registration link, there were around 136 registration were done, but accidentally that got deleted by me. I'm really sorry for that, but you have to re-register. Registration is only once, and I'm not going to cancel any of the lecture. I will simply inform that today there will be no lecture instead of cancelling, and I will not start that session on that day. So just register. Now we are having total 60 entries here as a attendee. So before going further thing, so we require to go this. So what is scenario based elements? So when we say scenario based elements, that is a use case diagram. How the end user will going to use that particular system. So a system is having a total scenario. Okay, so it's just like a storytelling. मतलब हम कोई पिक्चर बताना है छोटे बच्चों को तो how is it in old pictures they used to show that dishum like thing, so that dishum means that something, so you are trying to tell the scenario, or someone when he told the story. Okay, someone who start telling a story, so what you say, okay, that person do this thing that thing and likewise, and so we know that is a scenario. Or let's say when we try to explain some plot, what actually trying to, we go on explaining all those things. So scenario based system or elements are those elements of the software which actually gives the complete behavior of software. For example, if I want to use the scenario based element for a website, I can say this will be the main page of website. When you particularly click on a particular link, let's say suppose if you click on this link in a website, okay, the next page which will open will be this, and likewise, so you go on creating what say a complete storyboard. So this will be your main page. If you click on this link, your next page. If you click on the say other link, you may get the next page, and likewise, so you show all those things. That is called a scenario based element. So you know that is when a person click on this, this will be open, click on this, this will be open, and likewise. So you are actually trying to give the information of your software's usage to the user, end user. So that is what we call as a scenario based elements. Now once this use cases or use case diagram or what called as a storyboard is completed, you know the entire working of your system. What I am asking you, 60 people are already there entered into the classroom, and those people who are not yet entered into the classroom, you can place a message on TComp group, okay, to register for them people to register for the class and try to attend the class the maximum number, because daily attendance is uh, taken by us, and it's a good thing that if you attend the entire classes. Okay, so class based elements, in class based elements what happened, every computer system is having architecture. Rough architecture of any computer system can be given like this, that is you are in a computer system where you have a computer systems what we call as a user interface, first part. Okay, the second part for the computer system is called as a logic part, which actually behaves just with this user interface. Okay, so here you are having the user interface and then you are having the logic. For example, on user interface you are having a button submit, but clicking on submit button won't going to do anything if you are not having the proper coding for that button. So this is called as a logic, that coding for the button which actually enables that submit button to submit whatever data enter into that particular form is the logic of that submit. But this is your first thing what we call as a client program. Okay, this client program is generally nowadays almost all softwares are network centric. These client programs are generally connected with a network. Okay, these client programs are generally connected, let's say suppose this is a network. Okay, and when is connected network is actually sends data from this networks to somewhere else. So when you're sending this data from network to somewhere else, what exactly happens? You are having here the data receiver, and what we generally call this as a server. Okay, so you are having a server script, you are having the client script, then so you require to have the ports, yeah, and for at this server you are just not having the server is having some processing logic. Whatever data come from the client required to be processed and then returned back in terms of response to this client. So server is having some process logic just like here. Okay, and the server is also having one extra part, that is what we call as a database storage. So if you go with this, this is what we know, that these are the different components of your system: the client program, the network, the server program, and the database storage system. So for this you are going to create the classes. So you have one class for the client, another class you may have for the server program, another class you may have for this your database, one class you may have for the graphical user interface, and likewise, and all these things are called as what we can say as a class based elements, or these structural elements of the system. Okay, so every scenario means, say suppose you want to drive a bicycle, one will say you simply have to pedal. But as soon as you say pedal, you know that is a bicycle required to have handle, the wheels, the pedal, and the mechanism which can help those pedal on pedaling to drive those wheels. So entire architecture is come into your mind. So that is what we say when we actually defines the scenario based model, that how your system going to respond to the user and how the user is going to enter into your system. Designing the architecture of system is very easy. That is called as a class based elements in requirement specification or requirement analysis model. Then examples are class diagrams, and this collaboration diagram, which likewise, and then you are having the behavioral elements. Now first scenario based is there. Behavioral elements also give you the flow of these things. So how the computer based system can have a profound effect on the design. This is chosen here, and the behavioral element actually gives the behavior of the entire system. So say suppose at first your system is there, that at 10:30 a.m. the system starts with the lecture. Okay, now here the at 10:30 a.m. lecture name may be SCPM. Okay, at 11:30 a.m. lecture name may be CN. At 12:30 p.m. lecture name may be something different. So at every f of t, that is for a particular time, you have the different type of, you can say, time zone, or you can say you have the different roll numbers, and that is what we call as a state of that particular system. So when we say behavior, we are trying to find out what exactly your system will show at a particular time after processing a particular set of input, and that is the behavioral elements which actually show the total flow, or you can say behavior of the entire system. And then you are having, after this behavioral model, you are having the flow oriented model. There are two type of flow in a system. One is called as a control flow, another is called as a data flow. So whatever diagrams which actually guides to this flow oriented model are general terms considered as a flow charts. But these things can also be considered as an activity diagram or something, and so that need to be answered, or that required to be done in a say. So now we are going to see how to negotiate the requirements. I think all of you have understood these flow oriented elements, behavioral elements, and something. This also called as agile model, UML programming, or a unified process model. This is also called as rational unified process model, which have these four elements: flow oriented, behavioral element, and you are in scenario and class based elements. So we are going to see what is the negotiating requirements. So in real life, whenever I'm not going to read this day, but if you go to a market, even a grocery shop, you require to negotiate. Yeah, हम डिस्काउंट के लिए तो पूछते ही है ना, sir, I bought this from you, at least give me the 10% discount. Okay, and the seller will say, "Sir, I already having say facing a lot of loss due to this COVID-19. I am unable to give you any discount. Please buy this for the printed price." And likewise, then we say, "Sir, I am also facing the same problem. I don't have the sufficient." And we go on negotiating, 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 and somewhere then you will say, "Okay, sir, take the 10% discount," and you become so happy. Yeah, we become so happy when we negotiate the things. And in real life, a software engineer, because he's actually designing and developing a software, okay, for the mm, class, or in say for the vendor, for a customer, for a mass. When I say class, not the classroom. Class means few elite peoples or few elite organization. Mass means for a general public, and likewise that software engineer require to negotiate with the different stakeholders. Stakeholders are there are many stakeholders. I am going to see what here you are. If you consider software as a product, there must be someone who actually provide money. There must be someone who actually provide the expertise. There must be someone who regulate the things, and likewise. So here you are having the person who is providing the money. What we call this as a stakeholder, shareholder. Here you are having a person who provides the expertise. You call them as a developer. Here you are having the person who provides the rules and regulation. We call this as a government. Okay. Then you may have the another person here, large persons which are not actually as organized as the other three. You call this as a market. So all these are the stakeholders. Market, this, and you are having your own product. So when we say the stakeholders, you require to negotiate with all these stakeholders. Matlab, if you decide, if you created your software, and if you put that software price, say for 10 rupees, no one is going to buy it. Yeah, obviously, because people have this mindset that if something is available for a cheap, okay, it may not be a good one. People won't believe that free and open source softwares are good enough. So they go on buying the proprietary software, while the free open source software, many of the free open source software simply outperform the proprietary software. Best example is Linux software, then the LaTeX, of which I am the proud member, and so on. So if you go with these things, a software engineer need to negotiate the requirements every now and then. So what is negotiation? So negotiation actually start with the first thing itself. For example, we have just seen the example of that pharmacist retailer owner. He have given you a simple command that you want and software which can handle all his pharma operations in that retail shop. Okay, but he is not ready to pay you. Then you will say that is okay. For this model, I require this much. For this model, I will require this much of money, and likewise. So that there you go on. You can say thing. First, you require to negotiate this thing. Anything which is not delivered in time, okay, is called as not delivered. This is what the business rule. Okay. Matlab, in justice they say that a justice delayed is itself injustice. In the same thing, in a business it is said that anything which is not delivered in a time is considered as not delivered at all. So simple thing, that is, if some due date is given by the customer for the deliverance of your uh, product, you have to deliver that product either on time or before time, but not after time. And so you require to negotiate about this delivery. Customer may want this within 7 days, but you know by technology and other expertise that within 7 days it is just impossible. So you may ask him, for this is not possible within 7 days, let at least give me 15 days or say a month. Okay, based on the say. Then you have to also negotiate with the people, all people. They negotiate just not mean that you have to negotiate for the money. Many times you require to say that people something like a say he's not working properly. They have to motivate the persons. You have to do all those things. So negotiation is something that you have to do all the time. And then vitamin M, money is the most critical part in any business. If there is no money, no business at all. Okay, so if your software is not sellable, it is not a software. This is a simple thing. So budget is what there you have to negotiate. For example, let's say suppose this pharmaceutical retail owner asks you for this asks you for development of a particular software and say that he is ready to give you 1 lakh rupees for designing and developing for that software within a month. Now you are so happy, 1 lakh within a month. Okay, that in this what you can say scenario of COVID. Because and he said that because you are BTech computer student, I'm ready to give you this. Okay, and why he say that he is having his own say mathematics, that is this is a BTech computer student. If I give him a project like this and 1 lakh rupees for a month for designing and developing such project, the student will go. He is having few friends who may work him for free, and he is having some guides. Okay, teachers and likewise they will guide him and can come up with the project within time. Now start the things you require to find out the people, the project. You know that is even the experts, they won't come free. Okay, your whether they are your friends, your teachers, your known people, no one come free because they have to at least invest there some time. So when you go to someone for this and say, sir, you are very fluent, or friend, you are very expert in database and say, I want a database, can you work with me? He will say, okay, I'm already having this project on in my hand, how can I help you? Now you say that if you help me, I will give you party. Okay, like, or you may say because you are a friend, I will give you 2000 rupees and something. So out of this 1 lakh rupees, whatever you are getting from that retailer, you at least have to have a heart to you can say give away 50%, at least 50% to all the people who are going to help you. So you actually get only 50,000 rupees. These other people who actually help you, and that is called as budget negotiation. Now, if you want to keep a bigger part for you, then you require to start a simple company, and then you have to hire the person for that particular thing. Then all those things comes in a picture. So that is what we call as a negotiation. So when we say negotiation, we are actually considering that you as a software engineering are trying to negotiate with this thing. So real world constant. And for the Boehm, who have given this spiral model, he say that identification of the system or subsystem key stakeholders, because or what we call as the people. You know, in a software, human factor always affect everything. Okay, so you have to identify the key stakeholder. Then you have to determination of the stakeholders win condition. They must have to be get profit. For example, let's say suppose you set up your software company. Let's say taking the Abhijit Alne's name. Let's say Alne decides to start his own software company and say it's Alne Softwares. Okay, and so Alne Softwares identified this, got the 1 lakh rupees order for designing and developing the software. Okay, but now Alne is not having much expertise in a say suppose in a database, and say Abhishek Gupta is having this very say and Abhishek Gupta said, I am ready to work for you for this project, but I require 50%. He will say no. Yeah, 50% is not possible because there are many other things that we require to design and develop. If I give 50% to you, I won't have I will not have the sufficient money to give to other people. I am going to give only 10,000 rupees. Tell me now, or I will going to you can say talk with Aditya Bhure, or I am going to talk with Abhishek Mishra, or I am going to talk with Aishwarya Manmode and likewise. So this Alne told this people. Now Abhishek said that is, if he go to those people, I'm going to lose my 50,000 rupees. So he'll say, okay, 10,000 is okay. Yeah, right there. So what we'll say, that is what is the determination of the stakeholders win conditions. Every stakeholder must have to get his or her share in that complete, you can say, thing. That is the second thing. Then negotiation of the stakeholders win conditions to reconcile them into a set of win-win conditions for all concerned. That including the software team also. So Abhijit Alne is the owner of the company. He got the 1 lakh rupees order. He at least required to have 50,000 rupees for getting that order, because all what you can say pioneering and all those things are done by that person. He have given, say, suppose 5 prints. I'm taking the name of 5 prints here from this list. Okay, this Gupta, Misra, Patil, Bhure and Manmude, they decided to help the Alne, and so 10,000 rupees given to all these five. They have got 10,000 per month. This person got 50,000 per month, but when he got this 50,000, he required to pay for the electricity bill, he required to pay for the cleanliness of that particular premise where the software development is going on, he required for maintenance cost. Let's say suppose 20,000 rupees goes to the maintenance. Okay, you have to be provided with tea, food, and other things also, and that you are not going to pay from your 10,000 rupees. That 50,000 is going. So after I can say paying for this, only 20,000 rupees will remain with the Alni, and that is what we call as a negotiation with the win-win condition. So now everyone is at a win-win side. Alni got his share, and other five got their share. So this is what we call as a negotiation of the stakeholders win condition, and this is what Boehm said, because software industry is product based. Product is a sellable thing. So if it is sellable thing, there is a money involved. And if there is a money involved, it simply means every person involved in that organization or in that product development must have to get his or her share. It may be unfair share, but must have to be get. Unfair share means, let's say suppose someone deserves say more share, but may not get that much of share, but at least something must have to be delivered to that person. That is called as a win-win condition. Okay. So when we say this thing, so now once this negotiation is done, we require to go for validation or the validating the requirements. So what is validating requirements? Once all the requirements are notified and so done, you require to check those requirements. So now there are different type of requirements that you require to check. For example, software requirements are given by the here that pharmacist retailer to the person. So one person will always remain in contact with the software say order of the customer, that retailer, and whatever the requirements comes, you go and check those requirements. For example, user interface, database, output report formats, input formats, and like things. Those are checked and validated by this person. Then there may be someone who is a banker. Let's say suppose Alne is not having enough cash to start his office, and Ajay Borade and Ajay Venjane, they decided to help him, but they said that whatever they are going to give, they require 2% interest on that, okay, per month, something like, or per year, something. So Alni said, okay, I'm going to get 1 lakh rupees anyhow. You lend me the 10,000 or say 5,000 rupees at least to start my office, so I can make some rent deal and set up an office and something. So that is what we can say check for it. So for such person, you have to go with the other type of requirements. You have the law. You require to go for the patent, copyrights, your store registration, and all those things. For that purpose, you have to go. For example, I'm going to give the example, real life example. One Balakrishna Swami and another is Ramdev Baba from India. They on their bicycle go to register a company called as a Divya Pharmacy, Patanjali Divya Pharmacy, a few years back, around 20 or 25 years back, with a 3,000 rupees. But when they go to the registered office, they found that the cost required is 13,000 rupees. So they meet their friends and family members and say they lend them 10,000 rupees on a condition that they will return for that 10,000 rupees a few more to them. So they make them a shareholder for that company and say, we are not in a capacity, but if a company go into the profit, you will get the shares and likewise. And thus they form the company. What is a Patanjali? Now you know that company. Another example, Azim Premji, a software engineer. Okay, come from Ayurveda medicines to directly software. Azim Premji from Amalner Dhule, when he started with his own company Wipro, he actually raised money from everyone in his what no, say neighborhood. Even his servant also have given him some money, 1 rupee, 2 rupee, and likewise. And this how he collected around 1 lakh or few lakh rupees cash, and he started the company by giving the share certificate in return with his signature to every person who have given him the money. That is, when if the company make some profit, they are going to get. And you know what is Wipro? Wipro is a history. So this is called as what you say validating requirements. You have to go validating requirements means you have to make a legal contract, or you have to get the legal what you can say acceptance from your customers and something. So what there are different questionnaires that you require to ask for validating the requirements. I'm not going to read each and every question. Simply going to play this you can say this presentation. So first question is that you have to find out, okay, is whether the requirement is consistent. Consistent means must have to be feasible and what you can say reliable requirement implementation. Then whatever documents say, you have to find out whether all requirements are specified in a proper level of abstraction, because it is not necessary to give all the details to everybody. Yeah, this retailer won't require all the details of financial operations. Okay, he only need to know about what his software is going to serve him, and likewise. So the person require. So you have to actually divide these requirements into smaller parts, and accordingly you have to serve. Then is the requirement really necessary? That also the thing. Many times what happens, we want to go to a traveling, and we start collecting all the baggage, but you have to find out whether those baggaging is really required. Yeah, so there may be some requirements which are simply not required. In that case, delete those requirements. It is always what you can say good practice to delete unnecessary requirements, because it makes your system totally compact. And likewise, the next question for validating requirements are, is each requirement bounded and unambiguous? Clarity must have to be there. Yeah, clarity must have to be there. Bounded means it must have to be time bounded. Okay, requirements are such a way that they must have to be time bounded and money bounded. Every requirement must have to be considered. That is, this requirement required to be fulfilled within a week. Okay, and for fulfillment of this requirement, you are going to get this much of money, or this will be the bill. That is what we call say bounded and unambiguous. There must have to be clarity and no what you can say unbounding thing. Then does each requirement have attribution? So this is thing. Attribution is very necessary. You have to be have noted up for this each requirement. Then you have to find out that do any requirements conflict with the other requirements. Means in one requirement you may say that you require something like say you want to have a good networking speed, and in other requirements you say you are not going to use the Zigbee. You are having something proper, because Zigbee actually helps in ad hoc networks, Bluetooth, Zigbee, and likewise. And if they are denied, means the requirements are conflicting. You have to find out that, and if there is any conflict in the requirements, you have to minimize that conflict. Sometimes the conflicts may happen just because of the technological aspects. Now, is requirement achievable? Because if the requirements are not achievable, it means if they are not bounded with the time and money, they can't be added into your software requirement specification documentation. That is what it says. So if the requirement satisfies all these questions answers clearly, you can say your requirement are valid, and you can go with the things. So when you go with this type of thing, then you have to find out whether requirement is testable once implemented. Let's say suppose someone asks you to create a survey form. You have to have a proper test of this survey form once it is implemented. Does the requirements model properly reflect the information, function and behavior of the system? So requirement, whatever you are having requirements, it must have to give the detail of your system in its you can say minute thing. Then has the requirements model been partitioned? Because the requirements model required to be actually exposed. For example, administrator will have different type of you can say requirement rights, while the end user may have different rights. So accordingly, you require to partition those requirements based on the access levels and other things. How the requirement patterns been used to simplify the requirement model, because unnecessary and ambiguous requirements are we generally delete from the requirement model. It automatically creates the simplified requirements model for the requirements. And like then you ask the questions, have all patterns been properly validated? So every requirement, when you create that requirement, required to be get validated from the concern, you can say party. For example, here if you are having some loan arrangement with the bank, the loan arrangement must have to be validated by the bank. If you are having say this order and billing must have to be validated by order and billing or customers and likewise. So every party should have to be involved into that particular requirement validation. So these slides are these presentation slides are completed. So if you are having any questions, queries right now for this, I will be very happy to ask you. We can say the question, answer your question. So if you have any questions for this, say place your questions in a question and answer. If you don't have any question, at least you can, if you like the presentation overall description, what you can say, whatever I delivered here right now. Okay, at least you can give me a thumbs up or yes or right mark in question answer or on your chat box also, or you can give a smiley. If you give the smiley and say I can go for, you can say the next slides for the presentation. Yes, what is Jidnesh? Yes, Jidnesh. Thank you. Thank you, Bamya Swami and few others. Bamya and Raunak. Thank you very much for appreciation. Yes, Jidnesh, you raise the hand. Jidnesh. Hello? Jidnesh, you minimize your windows, you are not giving any attention. You raise your hand 2 times. But flow up these things, and because there are too many candidates, I simply not got time for things. Okay, Shubham Jadhav, you can answer. You also raise the hand but minimize the window. Okay. So you consider that your from this reply, when the attendance will be uploaded in MIS. Okay, that is not the question, Raunak. Actually, the MIS attendance will be uploaded on this Sunday or maybe today also. Because as we get time, right now won't have the MIS working. It started working 2 or 3 days before. So we are going to upload the attendance. Don't worry about that. Okay, your every attendance is recorded with me on the videos, and so it will never happen that you attended the lecture and your attendance will not be there. Reports are automatically generated by WebEx of your attendance as soon as you log. Okay, thank you. So anyone is having questions? No. If you are not having a question, we can go for the next slides or next presentations. So um, so what is our next presentation is about the software engineering use cases and swim lane diagram. Okay, so this is partly in your syllabus and partly not in your syllabus. So you can consider this part of the presentation as the beyond syllabus thing. So use case, activity and swim lane diagrams in a requirement specification model or requirement analysis model to understand. These slides were designed and developed in August 1, 2019, actually updated. Afterwards, I found no, you can say, necessity to upload them because the information is sufficient. You can go through the books. I'm going to upload this afterwards sometime. So objective of this is we are first going to see what is the scenario based modeling use cases. We already have discussed these things in brief, but here now we are going to detail. Then we are going to find out the UML models of activity diagram and swim lane diagrams. Okay, so this way. So first objective is we are going to learn now the scenario based modeling in its detail, and then you are going to learn about the different unified model language modelings. Okay, so first see the RUP, rational unified process of the requirement engineering. This also called as agile unified process. Okay, or OOP also. So what they are having, four models. Software requirements is having these four models. First, scenario based model. It includes use cases, user stories, and what we call as storyboard. Then class model, which actually give about the architecture of your software, class diagrams, collaboration diagrams. Then you are in the behavioral model, which actually shows what is the sequence of your classes and your software parts or elements. So here comes the state diagram, sequence diagram. Sequence diagrams you can say automata, that is the finite automatas and other things. Those are called as a sequence diagram. Then you are in the flow models where you are in the different type of flow charts like data flow diagrams, control flow, CS diagram. Then you may have the data models or the database models and likewise. So those shows the flow model. So these are the four models in a software requirements. So we are going to see the UML model or requirements for the UML model. We have already have seen what are the necessity things. So whenever you have the requirements, okay, first what we can do in a requirements, we elicit the requirements. When we elicit the requirements, this is what the elicitation of requirements means. These are the steps in a requirement elicitation, these complete steps. Okay, so elicitation requirement starts here. This symbol for start in activity chart of the UML diagram, this for the stop. Okay, so this start and stop. So this is expanded. What is the first? You have to conduct the meeting. Okay, for example, if you want, I'm going to take an example which is very near to everybody's life. Just consider you want to marry with someone. Yes, what you will do? You require to conduct the meeting, at least of bride and groom. They require to agree upon some common points, else or otherwise the deal won't go further. In the same way, business is just like marriage. Okay, because business is an agreement, something like something that is the two parties required to agree upon something, and then it goes on. So you have to conduct the meeting with the customers, design developers, and likewise, and you have to make the list of functions and likewise informational and other things. Then you have to make the list of constraints. What are the thing that maybe limitation boundaries, and likewise, for example, a customer may want the design software should have to be designed only in C++ language, and yeah, that is the constraint. You can't use the any other language than C++. So those are called as a technological constraint. Money constraint may be that you have to design the software but within say a budget of 50,000 only. Customer is not going to pay you a single penny extra. Okay, and there may be a time bound constraint that you have to deliver the product anyhow within a month. So that is what we can say, make a list of constraints and likewise. So you go on with those things, and if there is a formal prioritization, you have to say which things must have to be done first, which thing must have to be done last. Then you have to consider about the quality function diagram, or what they generally call as Kano diagram. Okay, so what is Kano diagram or quality function diagram? I am drawing here the quality function diagram. Okay, if you say the x-axis and y-axis, let's call this as a expectation. This call as a expectation of the customer from the software. Okay, and let's call this as the you can say popularity of the software, P, not the price. So what are the expected? There are some features which are always considered as a basic feature. Okay, let's call these as a basic feature. Then there are some features which are expected features. There are expected features. And then there are some features which are what we call as a luxurious feature. So if you go to any car dealer, you will find there is always a basic model, intermediate model and high end model. A software basic model means if you are creating a software for a retailer, there must have to be printing facility given to print out the bills and likewise. That is what is say expected very basic requirement. A customer must not have need not have to tell you about these requirements. Those requirements are basic. Okay, means if someone call you say a student of GHRCM, what is the basic requirement? You should have to be admitted to the course. This is a basic requirement. Okay, then you are a student. But if someone say bright student, then what is there must have to be these other requirements. Intermediate bright means you may be continuously in a first class and or you may be continuously meritorious. So this is called as a quality function diagram that you have to Kano diagram that you have to consider here in scenario based modeling. So requirements modeling plus using UMLs are done, and when all these modeling are completed, you require to go for the use cases. So what are the use cases? Means here when you say use cases simply means that you actually consider use cases simply means what? You actually consider all type of operations that are possible with your system. Okay, so this what they say that is a contract for a behavior. Means if end user gives certain type of input to your system, the system will behave in a certain type of way. That is what we call as a use cases. So you have to identify all the use cases in your system. Means you require if you are in the form must have to have the input in the text box, submit button, login, cancel button, delete button, edit button, modify button. These are called as the behavioral thing. So it actually describes a specific usage scenario of the particular you can say part of your software with a particular user, which is in technical language called as actor. Okay, so this is what we can say a use cases means. Now what use cases when you go for the use cases, writing about the use cases, you require to write down things. So what to write about? Inception and elicitation, that you require to write when it comes to use cases. Then you require to go and write for how much to write about it, how detailed to make your description, and how to organize the description. First thing that is all things required to be write down in an abstract manner. Okay, QFD must have to be followed. QFD is also called as Kano diagram. Okay, quality function diagrams they must have to be followed. Okay, and then you have to organize description according. Then you require to refine these use cases. There may be some use cases which are unnecessarily added. There may be some use cases which actually are not feasible, and you have to delete those. And whatever use cases that you are having, you have to refine them. So these are the questions that require to answer to refine your use cases. Can the actor take some other actions at this point? Likewise, for example, you log in into a system. What type of action you can do in a Gmail in a email system? If you log in, you can read the mail, you can write the mail, you can edit the mail, you can do different type of operations. So those are what you can say the actions, and that you have to identify in a use cases. So when you say use cases, you have to find out this: are there cases in which some validation is required? For example, a use cases means entire username and password. So validation function is required. Password checking, username checking. So when we say this, we are actually considering use cases with this. And are there cases in which supporting function supporting function means you may require to add a captcha, that is a supporting function to the actor. Okay, so can poor system performance result in unexpected or improper user actions? That also you have to consider, because if you are using the network, you require to answer this poor function things. Okay, so this After this, how to write the formal use cases. This part, this is yeah, from the Roger Pressman's book. If you go through the book, which is I already uploaded on the Google Classroom, there you will get this in a clear fonts, and likewise, that's why yes, yeah. So you will get the use case template for surveillance system there. You can create use case system for this. This is what we call as the scenarios. What operations are possible? You simply have to write these things down with what you can say your simple paper and pencil, or you can use the Microsoft Word like thing. So once you do this use cases diagram, then you have to consider the first use case model, and then you have to go for the other UML models. So Unified Modeling Language is the language designed and developed by James Rambach, Ivor Jacobson, and Grady Bush. They form a company called as Rational. In 2000 something, this Rational was actually bought by IBM, and the Rational Unified Process is also known as Agile Unified Process model, and they have the different models in a UML. So the first model in UML is the structure diagram, or what you can say, which actually gives the template of your coding. So this structure diagram shows the different type of classes of your diagram. The class diagram, every class is nothing but a database, some type of database or a data holding structure. Then you have the component diagram. For example, when you say file menu is a component. Okay, so that is what is a component diagram. Then you have the object diagram. Every class creates the object. For example, if teacher is a class, okay, then Aniruddha Rumale is an object of class teacher. Sandeep Gore is an object of class teacher. If the student is a class, then any one of you, if you say here Abhishek Patil is object of class student, okay, then like this you can go with the thing. Now here you are in the profile diagram. So what is profile diagram? When you create an entire software, when you create an entire software, that software need to be shown in a way that is what's called the package diagram, and it must have to be shown in a way that what is the software, what is its abstract idea, what it delivers, and what it may deliver in the future. So that is what we call as a profile. For example, if you create an operating system, you can say your software is an operating system. It is lightweight, made for mobile phones, deliver the things, and it is you can say cross stores. Cross store means it allows the apps from Google Store, Geo stores, and even the iOS store to run on the thing. So this is what you are saying. So this is what we call as a profile diagram, and a brief description of the software in one or two pages using diagrams. Okay, some flowchart, something likewise, or what we call as a marketing leaflets. Then you have the composite structure diagram. So how your software will work, with which system it will work, and likewise those structures composite are there. Deployment diagram means at the end of the development, first release version of the development. Actually, there is no end to the development. When you release the first version of your software, how that software will be configured, and which part will be reside on which type of machine and where, that is called as a deployment diagram. And package diagram means all the packages of this thing, this class component, and all these components are packaged in a thing. So you create this diagram. So this first part of you can see UML diagrams shows the entire architecture, or you can say the basis of entire architecture of your software. This part, okay, this shows the entire architecture. Then comes how your software will respond or interact with the users, and this interaction is called as a behavior diagram. Okay, in this behavior diagram, the most important diagram is use case diagram, because this diagram actually gives, use case diagram actually gives the complete idea of this structure, complete idea of this structure. Okay, because it is the end user who is going to use your software, and is the end user usage which actually going to give the idea what type of operation and what type of security required to provide. Okay, so use case diagram is the most important diagram in a behavior diagram. While in complete architecture, the structure diagram, this diagram, class diagram is the most important diagram because this actually give you the entire idea about all those things. Profile diagram is just an abstract leaflet, so it is not considered as a diagram also in many UML model. It's simply a we can say a brief information about the system. After use case diagram, you are having the activity diagram. What type of activity or what is the flow of activities, and the state machine diagram. So activity diagram shows the activities generalized, while state machine diagram actually shows the state of your software on a particular time. Okay, so then you are having the interaction diagram. So there are total 4 interaction diagrams here given. So these diagrams show the sequence diagram, communication diagram, interaction overview diagram, and timing diagram. And there is another things, that is notation in UML are generally given in this symbol. Okay, so if you go with the UML models, you are having these many UML models to deal with the entire software engineering. So we'll see these UML models now. Okay. So first we will think to go to see the activity diagram. So UML activity diagram, it's actually supplements. I'm not going to read these things. It have some arrows, start symbol, and likewise. For example, this symbol is for a start. Okay, a filled circle. If you are in the same circle with filled with a hollow, this is called as a stop. Okay, if you are having an arrow, then that is show the flow, arrows that represent, and the entities are generally shown with something like this, or oval. Okay, so that is what a solid horizontal line indicates parallel activities and like. So if we see this, here is an activity diagram thing. So if you see this, this is a start of the activity diagram. This is for login system, enter password and user ID. Okay, if it is okay, this is what you can call as an activity or action. This is called as a decision if you know. This is for stop. This symbol is for stop. This this is adjust. So if you see the activity diagram, you will find there is another stop also here. So if you see activity diagram shows what are the different activities in a system. Okay, so this is what you can see your activity diagram. And then you are having the another case which called as swim lane diagram, because these activities may happens in a different components. Okay, so when these activities are actually happens in a different component, for example the same thing, here you are in the enter password and user ID. Okay, but when you are entering this password and user ID, these are actually used by the homeowner, or we can say by the client. And then there may be something which is generate the output video. This activity will happen only in CCTV camera something. Okay, so you are seeing that is even these activities are happening, this happening here. But when this enter the user ID and password, this data is sent over network to through this interface to the server. So these things happens in a interface. So this is called as swim lane diagram. So basically speaking, the activity diagram is a diagram which won't consider the components, while the swim lane diagram consider the different actors or components of your software, and it places the activity diagram accordingly. So if you see these two diagrams, the swim lane diagram and the activity diagram is this diagram, sorry, this diagram, swim lane diagram, and this activity diagram. These are the same diagram, but they are drawn in a different way. Here it is drawn using the actors. So homeowner is the actor, interface is there, form, and the camera. So the system, entire system threshold is explained in a swim lane diagram. So if you are having any query questions for this, I'm very pleased to answer them. Kindly ask your question in question and answers. This these are not the PowerPoint presentation, these are LaTeX made Beamer presentation, and these are already shared with you. Ajay, Venjani, these are already shared with you on Google Classroom. You simply log in into the Google Classroom, go to the Classroom folder, and you can download all of this uh, presentation. Okay, all the presentation of all 6 units, just not what you are right now having, and all the reference book on extra reading and further notes by me, which will help you in understanding the thing. So, yeah, already shared with you. If you don't have the Google Classroom code, I will upload that to the WhatsApp group. Okay. Any other question? Kindly type your question in question and answer, because that will help me answering the question, because it's already 12:15, and so for the next 15 minutes I'm not going to start the third presentation. We will see that in the next lecture tomorrow. Hello. Few minutes before I was seeing around 95 attendees, but I think 5 attendees have left. Now it is 89. Don't leave the things, because generally what happens, the attendance is marked based on your login and logout time by the WebEx. Okay, so if that attendance, if you are in the session of say 1 hour, it says that you require to remain present at least for 10% of time to get your attendance noted by the WebEx. It's at least for 10 minutes you require to be inside, okay, but to get noted. But at the end of the session, it only counts whatever the end count is there. Right now, end count is 88. Okay, our session is going to end around something 12:30. So it will, or when I will end the session from my side. So that end count is considered as the final attendance by the system, and only those people get registered. So that is what the system thing. And so if you are not having any questions, one thing is that I will like the feedback from all of you. If you like the session, uh, send the, what you can say, yes, nice session, and like something on question or answer or here. Hello. Thank you, Siddharth. Okay. So I think if people are not having any questions, not having any question is not the good sign at all. Okay, you must have to have the question. Even if I deliver, even say Bill Gates come here and deliver you something, always ask the question. We are the people from a nation who are very expert in asking the question. Thank you. Ritik. First thing that is, when if you go with this asking question, we have even not can say left Lord Krishna. Okay, when Krishna said, I am God, Arjuna asked him the thousands and thousands questions. We got the Gita. Okay. Anyone comes India and we always come up with the question. So even someone deliver you a good lecture, bad lecture, no matter what type of, if someone say is teaching you, don't forget to ask the questions at the end of session, or even when if you something click in between the session, type your question in the question answer box, so that that question will go to the person and person will prepare for it. Actually your questions help me to prepare more. It is motivation. When a student asks question to a teacher, teacher consider that student have given attention to his lecture, and it's just like that is what you can say love and affection of student. Questions means your students are actually loves your lecture and they have affection towards you. So if you ask the questions to the sessions, it will be really good. Thank you. Okay, because all of you are saying things, this is already 12:18 and for next 10 minutes. So we are conducting this from 11. And I know that is 1.5 hour is quite a things, because as far as the brain scientist they says, after 40 minutes our brain actually stops registering any activity if that activity goes continuously, and it goes into the mechanical type of functionality. Means the responses then becomes quite mechanical instead of they becoming what we can say emotional, or what we can say intelligent responses. So with this I'm going to stop the session. Okay, thank you very much for your patience, and I'm really thankful. I'm going to post the classroom code on WhatsApp group so that you can join, and I ask all of you to register for the course. Thank you very much for attending the course so patiently. Thank you.